Okay, we are ready to go.
All right. We're going to have 3 public hearings here tonight. The first public hearing is going to be a joint public hearing between the town board, Waukesha County Department of Parks and Land Use, and the Plan Commission. That'll be the first one we start off with. Everybody ready to go? All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:34 p.m. Roll call, please.
Chairman Osterman.
Here.
Supervisor Plotecker is absent and excused. Commissioner Nelson.
Present.
I am looking to see if we've got anyone on Zoom. We do. We have Planner Holloway on Zoom. We also have Engineer Lysis and Sandy Shearer from Waukesha County Parks and Land Use. We've got Commissioner Eberly.
Here.
Commissioner Olhafen.
Here.
Got Attorney Van Clunen.
Here.
Administrator Nicholas.
Here.
We have Supervisor Linda Beal.
Here.
And Supervisor Doug Brom.
Here.
Have I missed any town personnel?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, first public hearing is between Waukesha County Department of Public Parks and Land Use, Planning and Zoning Division, the Lisbon Town Board, and the Lisbon Plan Commission to consider the rezone request of applicant Mike Carrick, owner right-way bus for small portions of the subject property from the County A1 Agricultural District to the County R2 Residential District. HE and the C1 overlay districts will not be amended. The property is located at North 95 West 23759 County Line Road, tax key LSPT 0150.997. Is there anyone here tonight to speak on this public hearing? Anyone on Zoom?
If anyone on Zoom would like to speak, please use the raise hand button. I see no hands raised on Zoom.
All right, final call from anyone here? No? All right, so that'll be an easy public hearing. Close that one at 6:36. Second public hearing is a hearing between the Lisbon Town Board and the Plan Commission for consideration of the proposed repeal and recreation of Chapter 12 of the Lisbon Town Code related to subdivisions. Is there anyone here to speak on this public hearing? Anyone on Zoom?
I see no one on Zoom with a hand raised.
All right, anyone, final call here? We'll close that public hearing at 6:37. And open the third public hearing between the Lisbon Plan Commission, for the Lisbon Plan Commission to consider a request for a conditional use permit to allow major grading in the B2 zoning district by applicant Jeff Osgood, owner of Quick Trip Inc. for the property located at North 67 West 27619 Silver Spring Drive, tax key LSPT 0219.994.008. Anyone here to speak on this public hearing? Anyone on Zoom?
I see no hands raised on Zoom.
All right, final call here. Close this public hearing at 6:38. And that we will adjourn the public hearings then. And I'll then call the Plan Commission meeting to order at 6:38. And item 2 on that is citizens' comments. Mike should be on.
Do I need to pick it up? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Joanne Branchen, N74 W25134, Howard Lane, Sussex. I would like to comment regarding action on the new business number C, or letter C, discussion and necessary action on the request for Newman Developments, the final plat approval and the development agreement approval. I just have a few comments on what's been happening. I live right behind on Howard Lane. We butt up against the new subdivision that's going in. And I just wanted to address some of the issues that we have been dealing with during this first phase of Hillside Ridge. The first issue that we are having is that there's work going on past the 6 o'clock PM deadline. This has happened multiple times. I called the town and I also called Newman Developments. The town got back to me right away and said we should call the police. I don't really feel like that's a good use of our resources, calling the police. So I did call Newman Development Companies. They did not return my call at all. I called again when it continued to happen. We have had work going past 7 PM during the week. And then also we've had work being done on Sundays, and that is not in part of the agreement. I'll get back to the Newman situation. I would like the Planning Commission to maybe possibly consider revisiting their working hours to potentially make it from 7 AM to 5 PM. Just a recommendation. It would be very much appreciated by all of the neighbors involved. When I called Newman again, when it continued to happen, they basically said it's not our responsibility. It's the responsibility of the builders. And I said, but it's your development. You went to the Planning Commission to get your agreement of when your builders could work. So they said they would be in contact with the builders. A few days after that, we had work going on past 6 o'clock. So we would really appreciate it if this could be remedied somehow, some way, whether it's that between our Planning Commission, or I don't know if we talk to the police about this. Again, I really don't feel comfortable calling the police. I don't think it's necessary, and I don't believe that it's like I said, it's not a really good use of our police resources. We have had multiple issues with construction debris. I realize it was very windy at some times during the construction. So that was happening. That was also something that I did bring up to Newman Companies. So I aside from calling all the builders individually, if that's what I need to do, please let me know. But we've had, Tyvek, and we've had foam pieces coming through. We had all tons in our yard. We have a stack of them in our yards, and other. We've noticed too, when we're walking back there, we see along the wetlands that there are bottles and wrappers and things like that from construction, which I understand that happens, but it needs to be addressed. My other concern is the traffic on Howard Lane. Multiple times, multiple neighbors have had to stop trucks coming down. There is a weight limit on that road, and they're violating it, and they claim when we stop them and talk to them that they don't know. Oh, we didn't know. We didn't know. We didn't know. This has happened at least 3 or 4 times that I know of for certain, and other neighbors have had it happen too. So there's these big trucks coming down on Howard Lane, and which they're not supposed to be doing that at all. My other concern is when this becomes a parade of homes, and I don't ever recall in all the meetings and things that we were told that that was going to be a parade of homes in that area. I could be wrong. I don't know. But I'm a little concerned about parade of homes traffic on Howard Lane. We have many residents that have young children and young grandchildren, and we spend a lot of time talking with our neighbors in the road as we're going walking, and we share things and do things together, and we're very concerned about the traffic on Howard Lane. We would like somehow that to be addressed with parade of homes. And I don't know if that's Newman Company or not, but that's an issue that we'd like to make sure we address. And finally, we were kind of thinking, or had the impression that there was going to be a berm built longer past behind our residence on Howard Lane. There is a berm, but it stops like quite a bit earlier than we thought they were going to build it. And then we were just wondering if they were going to be putting any barrier trees up for us there. And then the final thing is, will the silt fence be taken down? That was the last thing that I had. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, does anyone else wish to speak during citizens' comments? Anyone on Zoom?
Anyone on Zoom want to do citizen comment, please use the raise hand feature. No hands raised on Zoom.
Thank you. All right, we will close citizens' comments and go to item 3, which is discussion necessary action on the minutes. We have the March 11th, 2021 public hearing and planned meeting minutes. And any discussion? So we don't actually have enough people that were here for these minutes. We only have 3. So I'll move the table the minutes until the next meeting. Second by Brian. No discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Joe, did you vote on tabling? Did you vote on tabling? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Passes 4-0. And move on to item 4, unfinished business. A, discussion necessary action on the request by Tyson Strankman from Sunvest Solar Inc. on behalf of owner Hans Dawson from Sussex West Corey LSP LLC for the property located at North 51 West 2411 Lisbon Road, tax key LSPT 0280.992 and North 51 West 24073 Lisbon Road, tax key LSPT 0280.999 in the Q1 quarrying zoning district for the following. This item is going to be tabled tonight, and I'll be looking for a motion to table due to the fact we will not have a quorum to discuss it.
So move.
Moved by Ed Nelson, the quorum. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joe Everly. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0 to table. Item 5, new business. A, discussion and necessary action of following request by Mike Carrick and Rightway Bus for the Bark River Preserve on North 95 West 23759 County Line Road, tax key LSPT 0150.997, and recommendations to the town board in Waukesha County the same. We have number 1, resolution 2021-09 to reapprove amendment to the Lisbon's comprehensive land use plan map from rural density and other agricultural lands to suburban 1 density residential and maintaining other open lands to be preserved, areas based on the Waukesha County comments. Item 2 is going to be reapproval of rezone from Town A 10 agricultural 10-acre district to Town R2 residential district and maintaining the C1 conservancy overlay areas based on the Waukesha County comments. And the third item is going to be approval of rezone from County A1 agricultural, HG high groundwater, and C1 conservancy overlay districts to County R2 residential and C1 conservancy overlay districts. And we have
Chairman?
Sandy. Yes.
Chairman, could I just add in that last part that it should also say HG? High groundwater.
The A1 agricultural and HG high groundwater.
Yeah.
conservancy,
To R2 HG and C1,
R2 HG and C1.
just so we don't have to come back.
Okay. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy.
We have Andy and Rachel with us. Who would like to start out?
You can if you want to, Rachel, that's fine.
Okay, I'll just say a few words briefly here and then feel free to jump in, Sandy.
Okay.
This is, oh, that's right. So yeah, we're starting with the comprehensive plan, just getting myself reoriented here. These are items that the Plan Commission and Town Board, I should say the first 2 items under this development for Mike Carrick. The town had previously done some approvals, held a public hearing in January of this year, and approved the developer's request to amend the comprehensive plan. At that time, the goal is the approval was done to amend the land use map from rural density and other agricultural lands, which is a 5-acre per unit density, to a suburban density 1 residential, to allow development with approximately 1-acre lots in that range. This is just a context map on the slide. These are in the packets showing a location. This is the current recommended land use. What the effective change would be turning most of this area in here in yellow to enable the subdivision, enable rezoning and subdivision of the land for residential lots. What we didn't have on the map, and it was brought to our attention afterwards, was the there's some areas here that are hatched in green that are labeled other open lands to be preserved. That's based on soil conditions, that those categories need to remain on the map. And then once it's verified with soil testing that those particular areas can be developed, then those areas on the map can be removed, but we don't want to remove them prior to that point. So this is simply up for reapproval by the town to clarify that, this white area would be changed to yellow. So it would be a low density, a suburban residential, excuse me, but maintaining those hatched areas for lands to be preserved. Now, again, those areas can be, developed if the soil testing proves favorable for that, but we just want to clarify for the record that that is the proposal. And town planning staff recommends a reapproval just with this clarification and the new resolution contained in your packets. And that would be a recommendation to town board.
And this is how it's always been done. It's just, as staff changes and administrations change, the message gets lost in how we do things. So it's just something that we noticed when it got processed at the county level, and we said, well, this is how it's normally done. As long as we had to do the county side of things anyway, we said, take it back to the town, brush it up, bring it back, and we'll take it all through at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Comments or questions from the board? Ed?
None at this point.
Joe? Brian? I also don't have any. Would the board like to make a motion on resolution 2021-09? Or commission, excuse me.
Mr. Chairman, does that include also the introduction, obviously the first part dealing with Mike Carrick / right way bus, or just the approval of resolution?
You can just approve the resolution.
All right. Do we need the whole resolution read, or would so move be appropriate?
I think you can move to approve resolution 2021-09. That would be sufficient,
So move.
and recommend to the town board of the same.
So move.
All right, moved by Ed Nelson. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Joe. Thank you. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right, and on item 2, which is the reapproval of rezone from the town A10. Rachel?
Yes, and so similar here, now that the comprehensive plan action has been made that enables the town to act on the rezoning. This is also a clarification of what was presented and approved in January, where the map currently has the land zoned A10 agricultural. The town had approved this be changed to R2 single family residential. The only catch is that the areas with C1 conservancy overlay zoning, you can see here on a couple small green patches on the map, those are existing wetlands that have been delineated and verified by the landowner. Those have always been intended to be maintained on site, so nothing has changed as far as the intent of development on the ground. It's just that on the zoning map, those C1 areas would be maintained. And so we're requesting reapproval tonight. Planning staff recommends reapproval. And this does not need a resolution or it will need an ordinance at town board when they act on this, assuming they reapprove it. But for plan commission's purposes, this would be a simple recommendation to the town board to rezone. This is approximately 41 acres to R2 and maintaining the C1 zoning. And that the map is just intended to clarify that.
Okay.
I'll put up the recommendation here on the slide if you would like that.
All right, anything from you, Sandy?
Yes,
Yes, you have something, or that,
no, I agree with everything she said.
thank you. Sandy.
Perfect.
Comments from the board? Ed?
Rachel, this doesn't, in terms of saying conservancy and wetlands, this, we're not, are we saying that, what am I trying to say here? That wetlands will be further endangered or impeded, or no?
No, I would say, as was presented in January by the developer, their intent is to keep those wetland areas. They're not proposing to fill them or modify them in any way. That continues to be the case. It's just that in our way we teed up the approval of the rezoning in January, I think I had described it as rezoning everything to R2, and so we would have lost the C1 zoning on the map. The setbacks and regulations applicable to wetlands will still apply. My understanding is whether or not they're zoned C1, except that there are some C1 zoning provisions in the town zoning code that would apply. And that zoning district is supposed to be maintained over all wetlands. So it was just missed by staff.
All right. Rachel, thank you. And Sandy, is that your understanding?
Yeah, and I believe these wetlands are actually in an outlot, so, you know,
Mhm.
it's not as important as if there was lots, you know, involved here, but the C1 zoning should still be maintained.
Thank you to both. No further questions.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one question. Does the presence of these wetlands and their location affect the location of the stormwater pond? As far as having required setback from there or not?
Good question.
I don't believe so as far as stormwater basins, although I could be,
Those were
Right.
located on other lots, weren't they, Tony? Yes. Yes. Those are located on other lots.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just raised my hand. Tony Zanin from Pinnacle Engineering, civil engineer for Mike Carrick. Yes, those wetlands were all on outlots. Our stormwater was outside of the wetlands. So Rachel did describe it exactly right. We were going to preserve those wetlands and work around them. And that's still the case.
Okay, thank you.
the concept plan, this is Rachel again, I'll just add that the concept plan from the developer is included in the packets again. My understanding is that has not changed, but it shows the overall layout of the development. I apologize, I didn't get that into a slide in time for the meeting.
That's correct.
Thank you. Any other questions, Joe?
None, sir.
All right, Brian? Else from staff?
No.
Is there a motion on item 2?
So move, or does it need to be
This one you might want to read out.
this one? Okay. Would move that the reapproval or rezone from town A10 agricultural 10-acre district to town R2 residential district and maintaining the C1 conservancy overlay areas based on Waukesha County comments be approved per planner comments and Sandy Shear input or comments,
And recommend to the board.
and recommend to the board. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there a second? Brian? Any other discussion?
No.
None.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Item 3 then is the approval of the rezone from County A1 agricultural and HG high groundwater and C1 conservancy overlay districts to County R2 and high groundwater residential and C1 conservancy overlay districts.
No,
Rachel?
this one is a new agenda item technically for this proposal. This is just related to the developer's intent. So this parcel overall, you could see in maps in the packet, as well as on the slides here on the screen, that the property extends currently up to County Line Road or County Q. The developer is proposing to break off a piece up here, approximately a little over 1 acre in size. But there's a line right here that shows where the small piece of that, what we call the panhandle or finger of land, is within the county shoreland zone. And that area was not previously rezoned. And we were trying to figure out, how just the mechanics of how the developer could break that piece off. And the goal is to connect it, enable a neighboring landowner to purchase that land and tie it to their parcel. And so it would not be part of Carrick's overall development here. It would just be treated separately. But because that needs to be separated off, the town is requiring that be done by certified survey map. That has not yet been submitted and reviewed by the town, but we know that that's the intent. And that doing that by certified survey map triggers the requirement to rezone that land to make it consistent with the adjacent parcel that it would be attached to. So currently that is zoned A1 and HD high groundwater under the county shoreland zoning ordinance, and that's proposed to be county R2 zoning. So very similar to the rest of it, but again, related to the adjacent parcel that it will be connected to. It's just making the zoning match the bulk of that property. But as Sandy clarified earlier, the HG high groundwater zoning does cover a small piece of it. I believe it's up in the northwest corner, but that would also be maintained here as part of the proposal. So Sandy, feel free to chime in, but for my part, I recommend Plan Commission approval of this rezone as well.
Yeah, I guess my comments were almost exactly the same. I guess I'd just like to add that there's, the comprehensive development plan amendment from the county side is also pending for this property. So we've got everything set to go now. The rezoning from, well, eventually from the county side and the town side, the comprehensive development plan from the town side and the county side. And all of that will now move forward through the process basically together. So we're moving in the right direction altogether.
All right. Questions from the board? Ed?
No, there, Sandy made a comment earlier about R2 HG1, but then I'm looking at item 3 and it's included in there, correct?
Well, that was on the from County A1 agricultural and high groundwater and C1 conservancy overlay, County 2, and then rezoning to County R2 high groundwater and C1 conservancy overlay districts. So we just got to make sure that that HG high groundwater is also in
Does
there.
that then, Mr. Chairman, need to be included in the resolution?
Yeah, between R2 residential and then after that, just like it is above there, it's where it says A1 agricultural, instead it would be R2 residential and then HG high groundwater and C1 conservancy.
Yeah, so just swapping from A1 to R2, that's the piece of land that would be changing, correct?
Correct.
And this is also a basic recommendation to town board, so this would not be via resolution or anything tonight, but when town board sees this item, they would act by ordinance. Thank you.
Anything else, Ed?
No, thank you.
Joe?
No comment.
Brian? All right. Is there a motion on this item?
I'll move to approve the approval of rezone from County A1 agricultural HG high groundwater and C1 conservancy overlay districts to County R2 residential and C1 conservancy overlay districts, along with the planner's comments and the county's comments and recommendation to the board of the same.
Did he say HG?
He did not. Would you include HG between R2 and C1 there? It's not on the,
Oh,
but you would
Yeah,
have to
I
include it.
missed that. Include HG. You want me to repeat it or just add the HG?
Just clarify, to County R2 high groundwater and C1 conservancy, correct?
Two County R2 residential HG and C1
Yes,
conservancy overlay districts.
correct.
Okay, got it.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Second by Ed Nelson. And you said more recommendation of town board.
Yes, he did.
Excellent. Any discussion?
No.
None.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right, thank you. Item
Thank you.
B,
Thank you, everyone.
thanks, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy.
Nice,
Good
Sandy.
night.
Item B is discussion necessary action on the request by Mike Carrick, KKNN Lindale LLC for Pheasant View Meadows on North 48 West 27368 Lindale Road, tax key LSBT 0268.999, and recommendation of town board regarding resolution 2021-10 to reapprove amendment to Lisbon's comprehensive land use plan map from rural density and other agricultural lands to suburban 1 density 1 residential, and maintaining the other open lands to be preserved areas based on the Waukesha County comments. Rachel?
Yeah, and so this one is the same, the nature of this is the same as the last item, the first one you took up of the 3. It's for the comprehensive plan land use plan map. Again, this was also approved for the developer in January by the town. This has actually already started the process and has some approval from Waukesha County. But again, to clarify for the town's records, this has, this would be changing areas on the map that are basically white or light gray for a less dense 5-acre land use designation. This was approved to be I believe this was also suburban 1. I just need to make sure I'm reading it correctly. Suburban density 1 residential. But the kick on this map is that it's also got the hatching for other open lands to be preserved, again, based on soil conditions that will need to be verified. That is typically done through the platting process. So as the developer provides soil testing, and that gets reviewed by town staff, also reviewed by county staff, then when those areas are verified to be developable, that gets done through the platting process. But for the purpose of this land use map, we want to keep those hatched areas on the map. And so it's just kind of a technical procedural fix here to make sure that we're following past practice and the way this is typically handled in Waukesha County as well as Lisbon. So the recommendation from staff is to reapprove, but by a new ordinance 2021-10 that would reapprove the amendments to the land use plan to change the areas from rural density and other agricultural lands to a category called suburban density 1 residential, but maintaining that other open lands to be preserved category on the map.
Okay. Questions from the board? Anything, Ed?
No.
None.
Brian? Is there a motion on resolution 2021-10?
I'll move the recommendation to the town board regarding resolution 2021-10 to reapprove the amendment to Lisbon's comprehensive land use plan, rural density and other agricultural lands to suburban density 1 residential, maintaining the other open lands to be preserved areas based upon Waukesha County's comments.
All right, moved by Joe to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nelson. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Item C, discussion and necessary action on the request by Eric Obarski for Newman Developments, Inc. for the final plat approval of Hillside Ridge 2 on Hillside Road, tax key LSBT 0205.995, and recommendation of the town board of the same. So we have the final plat approval and the developer agreement approval on the agenda tonight. We have Eric here. All right, Rachel.
All right, so this is the developer is coming forward with the second phase of this subdivision, Hillside Ridge, which got its approvals in, I think it began in actually 2019, but got final approvals, and phase 1 was done in 2020. And so this is coming in for, to show a location map here. This is on the north end of their subdivision. This would just be just shy of 20 acres remaining. This was already preliminary platted last year, and that got its approvals. They had done the engineering and stormwater plans at that time as well. That covers this phase. Well, construction plans are updated along with this plat as far as the roads and things, but the stormwater was previously approved. This would be creating 12 lots for this phase and would be the remainder of this subdivision. It contains 3 outlots as well. And these are all well and septic residential lots, as was done for phase 1. Just so everybody's kind of got that background here. The lots range in size from 30,000, well, very close to 30,000, almost 30,000 on the nose to 30,538 square feet. This was approved as a planned unit development, so it has, is it R1 or R2? R1 zoning, but with a planned development overlay. So they had kind of a customized zoning that enabled them to have smaller than 1 acre lots as part of a general development plan and specific development plan that the town approved. And so this is just continuing that the project with the new phase. I have a map here showing the zoning. So this is, again, consistent with the rest of the development as far as how it is zoned. That was already approved. This is just the making it, you know, carving this up into saleable lots. Staff reviewed this against the Chapter 12 subdivision code standards, against the approved planned unit development documents. Everything there was consistent. The plat is also consistent with the preliminary plat that was approved for the subdivision. So it's got the same basic layout. Everything there was matching what we'd previously seen for the development. The staff memo points out some comments. It's a pretty short list on this one, and the developer has in fact already provided a plat that addresses these almost all of the technical comments that staff had. So that when this goes to town board, this is basically almost ready for that. One thing I would just point out is that technically this would need approval of a waiver, as was done in phase one. The cul-de-sac bulb that's temporary at the north end of Beverly Lane, this would be platted right of way right up to the north end of the parcel. So this would enable future extension of that road. That cul-de-sac, the town's ordinance requires a larger cul-de-sac bulb on dead ends, whether they're temporary or permanent. And so I would just recommend that as part of any approval motion tonight, if you decide to do that, that you would include approval of a waiver for that cul-de-sac bulb size. And in fact, the developer also provided a written request for that I believe was added to packets before the meeting. So that that shouldn't be an issue. I think that was done with phase one as well on the western end of Highland Drive. So this is consistent with what the town has previously approved for this and other subdivisions as well. The fire department did not have a concern with this. There are temporary easements on Beverly Lane as part of that cul-de-sac. So those would be removed in the future when that road is extended. That's already provided for in the developer agreement and the covenants that the developer has provided. So that would put future lot owners on notice that that's a cleanup item that could be handled. It just details how that would occur. Landscaping plan, they've provided one for phase two as well, showing trees within the outlots and near the roads. That's something that they did for phase one as well. It's very similar treatment, so I have no concerns with that. Street trees was another comment. That's something in the ordinance requires plantings to be on the private side of the lot line. That's something that's typically handled by future lot owners. So the staff comment on that is just that they include language in their covenants to, put owners on notice that that is a requirement of the town. They have already done that with the revised covenants amendment that they submitted. And I believe that language is adequate. I mentioned the covenants. Yes, that will also go to town board. We just recommend approval subject to, final look by town engineer. I believe Mitch is on, but he's already approved the construction plans. And I believe construction is scheduled soon because the letter of credit has been submitted to the town. The plans have been reviewed. The county stormwater, I believe, is already issued or confirmed to be fine for this development. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. And so that, just want to make sure I'm not missing anything there. Those are my recommendations that if the Plan Commission is agreeable to this, you could approve it tonight with conditions, and this would go as a recommendation to town board. I'm happy to address questions if you have any for me.
Questions from the board? Ed?
Rachel, the cul-de-sac question you brought up at the beginning of your presentation on this one particular item, is that the cul-de-sac that's around parcels or lots 42, 41, and 40 and outlot 6? It's in the northeast corner of the new phase of the new development.
Oh, good question, Ed. No, that one is a larger cul-de-sac bulb. The one I'm referring to is the temporary bulb up on the very north end of Beverly Lane. So that would apply to lots 45, 46, and a little bit over the adjacent outlots.
Okay.
So that's just a temporary condition, assuming this road would extend in the future.
Yeah. Okay. So it's closer to Ridgeline Court Road.
Yes.
Okay.
And I see Mitch has his hand raised. I don't know if I can.
Yes, I just wanted to confirm with, thank you, Rachel. I just wanted to confirm with that Rachel was correct that we have reviewed the construction plans. Leif from the county has done so as well and given his final blessings to everything as well. And we actually have scheduled for tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. On site to have a pre-construction meeting for this the extension of the development.
Okay. Yeah. Joe?
I have a question for the town engineer. I assume that the developer's engineer, Mitch, took into account, I don't have a topo in front of me. I'm sure they looked at it. I just want to confirm the drainage facilities in whatever this is here, Beverly Lane, where that temporary cul-de-sac is. that those ditches and those drainage facilities are sufficient for any offsite drainage coming from the north.
Yes, actually, all of the stormwater that comes through this site at this point in time actually was part of the phase 1 review. So that stormwater report that was created, it was created for the overall site, including this phase as well. It did take into consideration the drainage basin that contributes from the north as well. So yes, it does.
Thank you very much. That's all.
Yep.
Brian?
The only comments I have is the lot numbers do not match from the phase 2 planting plan, which is not necessarily official, I don't think, versus the lot details. I think the hillside, the phase 2 planting plan lot numbers are correct for phase 2, but not for phase 1. And then on the plat, I believe phase 1 is correct, but not phase 2. Am I right with that?
Yeah, so. The planting plan was done for the whole project.
You want to
Eric,
make sure
grab
the
the mic.
mic's on, just because we're on Zoom. I have to switch it on and off.
Check one, checkity
There you
check.
go.
Red rocket.
Yes.
So, I'm sorry, landscaping plan was done for the whole project, at what time it was consecutively numbered, but then when it was platted, state of Wisconsin has platting laws with consecutive lot numbers, and they wanted it done where the numbering changed. So the planting plan was done initially with the lot numbers being consecutive, so the planting plan doesn't match the lot, the official lot numbers are the final plat, that's what's recorded with Waukesha County, so when you purchase lot 36, it is lot 36 as defined by the recorded plat at Waukesha County.
Okay, thanks.
So. Any other questions? If I can, I'd like to address some of the questions that the neighbors had that I can.
Yeah.
One of them was regarding the removal of the silt fence. When Waukesha County comes out and basically says that phase 1 is the grass is restored and stabilized and at a level that it's sufficient with them, we will remove the silt fence. We just need the blessing of Waukesha County stormwater. So I would expect that'll happen this summer. Typically, you get through a growing season, the grass kind of comes in, everything greens up, and we'll remove all the phase 1 or erosion control, silt fence, things like that. Parade of Homes, that is actually governed by the Metropolitan Builders Association. So other than sponsoring a subdivision, we have very little to do with that procedurally. We can request to them, traffic patterns and things like that, and we certainly will. I think we've been very sensitive of Howard Lane the whole time. How they handle it is kind of up to them with the traffic coming from the north, but I think it makes sense for them to shift everybody down Good Hope Road. Truck traffic, things like that, again, we're kind of done in there right now, so I know that, Brian's out there doing inspections on the new homes and things. As a developer, it is very difficult for us. We don't have a relationship with any of these builders. We don't know their masons, their dump truck drivers, their lumber delivery people. So we make it very clear to them. And I think that Joe DeStefano's done a great job of reminding people all the time to stay off of Howard Lane. But when a builder has one of their trucks come down there, I'm sure it has happened. We apologize, but we really have no communication or involvement with the builders. So it's difficult.
Do we have is there a sign up in Howard Lane, like a sizable sign that says no construction traffic, like a temporary sign we can put there?
There was, I don't know if there's one right now. Do you know, is there a sign? There is with orange flag. Yeah, I think to Joe's credit, he's done a great job. Joe
Sure.
DeStefano's done a great job of doing what he can to keep people off of that.
At that point, it becomes an enforcement issue.
And it is, and I do agree, it's not in the highest and best use of the police to, enforce things like that. But when it comes to like a weight limit type thing, they really are the enforcing authority. I mean, Brian, you can get on builders' cases about certain things, but like when it comes to weight limits on roads, that they're really the only people that can kind of enforce a true weight limit issue.
Well, each builder or the builders, every builder in there was sent an email about not using Howard Lane and also their garbage cleanup. And the reason I suggested calling the sheriff is because I told the builders, if they can't figure out whose garbage it is, then everybody should get a ticket. And so far, the sheriff has never been out there, so the sheriff doesn't really know about it. As far as the weight limits go, I mean, you have a sheriff catch a loaded dump truck on Howard Lane, it's a pretty good fine. And that's really the only way you're gonna get into the subcontractors' pockets or get them to pay attention to you is if you get into their pockets. So unfortunately, I can't enforce any road things, road limits, neither can Joe. But,
We are sensitive. I mean, this is, clearly this isn't a situation where we're just kind of ignoring it. It is difficult when you've got, 36 lots and short of the Tim O'Brien houses that again, we're not really part of, but I can walk across the parking lot and bark at those guys. I doubt that they're the offenders though. So it's difficult. We understand, we do what we can, but, I'm sure,
I'm sure for the Parade of Homes, we could do like a temporary road close or something through there during those times. It would,
and, like I said, again, we don't have any involvement with it, but we can certainly give those guys guidelines on how to enforce them.
I'd like to ask, do you happen to know how many builders will be involved in the Parade of Homes? Because
It's already been selected.
in Hillside,
Yeah, there were certain lots set aside for those guys. I believe there's 7 of them out there. That's kind of the typical number.
yeah, you're correct. There was 11 lots set aside, I believe, and only 7 builders are in the parade.
And there's a bank of lots on the north side of the entry road there that are set aside for overflow parking. So, last year was kind of an odd year. There was very little. In fact, there wasn't a parade, but there were kind of coordinated open houses.
correct?
Out here on weekends and things, there may be a time where there'll actually be parking that we'll have off-site in there. So part of the deal with working with the MBA is we'll set up, culverts and obviously the septic areas are roped off and stuff, and we'll have parking off-site to keep cars off of the road.
Yeah. They usually do a very professional job within the subdivision as far as parking, et cetera, is concerned. Obviously, the residents' comments are very warranted and with the increased traffic. Brian, the comments were made earlier by our resident on the time scenarios, of being too early and running too late. Does that also, have you been able to address that at all?
I've sent an email to all the builders, but if they're starting at 6 in the morning and staying at 6 at night, I don't know how enforcement would work with Sheriff's Department on the developers agreement. Because I
I don't think the sheriff can enforce the developers agreement. I think that it's, my experience in working with this is that either shutting the builders down or like not doing an inspection or something would, is kind of the way to get their, get their notice. I think what I'm used to seeing, I've been doing this almost 30 years, unfortunately. Typically 7 to 7, is work hours. I think completely warranted, we backed it down 7 to 6 here, so we're ending at 6 o'clock. I know the request was talking about 5 o'clock. I really would not want to go to 5 o'clock. I think in our climate and in our environment here, these guys have to make hay when the sun shines, unfortunately. And working until, they're used to going later in the night. I don't think that 6 o'clock is a big burden on them. I think for a construction guy who can only work when it's, not raining, quitting at 5 o'clock would kind of be asking a lot of them. So I really wouldn't like to back it down to 5. I think 6 is kind of appropriate. We're not working Sundays. Some municipalities do allow it. Most don't. I'm completely fine not working Sundays. I have no problem with that or holidays. So consistent. I think the developers agreement phase 2 is consistent with exactly what phase 1 was. These lots are, farther away from the neighbors on Howard Lane. So hopefully the distraction is less.
what is our enforcement tools for stopping them from working past 6 o'clock?
Well, development agreement, so I don't have the phase 1 development agreement in front of me, but I'm gonna presume, like you said, that phase 1 and phase 2, the standard provisions were probably the same. So assuming that, there would be some enforcement that the town could potentially take to enforce the development agreement. And then, we'd be looking to, Newman to then, work with the builders to get them in line with what the requirements of the development agreement were. That would be.
Just to bring this into pieces, the development agreement is specific, or is really geared towards the development of the public infrastructure. So when I look at the timing and stuff, I mean, we were under the same burden there. I didn't have underground people, graders, or guys restoring sites working past 6 o'clock. You know, I think the issuance of a building permit is kind of a big stepping stone there. I mean, at some point, the development agreement is specific to the development. Now, I know it does run into other facets of it, but that's where I go back to saying that, you know, as a developer, when we convey a lot to Aspen Homes, Aspire Homes, Bolinski Homes, and any other homes, or, you know, it's not, I believe, really reasonable for us to be out there at 6 o'clock or 6:30 telling people to shut generators off. I mean, we do have a guy that runs around, does a lot of the erosion control work, and we do have him drive through and kind of make sure that guys aren't starting too soon or running too late, especially on our end when we're working with the construction traffic. And I think that when you look at the site being developed, a lot of these issues didn't arise and didn't come up when we were developing the site. We're down, you know, that was me controlling. I can control those guys. I know, you know, they report to us, we pay their bills, and it's easy to control them when I've got 12 or 15 different builders out there, none of which we have any financial responsibility or relationship with. It gets a lot harder.
So the question becomes, at what point does the developers agreement stop? You know, so these lots have been sold off, essentially, the builders are there, that's what I'm hearing. And these builders are coming in and building, whose responsibility is it, and are they under the same agreement?
So in addition to that, you could also look to your, you know, your noise, your nuisance ordinance, and take enforcement action against the particular builders as well. And, you know, it could also look to the developer as well. So, I mean, you can kind of have a dual enforcement mechanism in order to try to get compliance from everybody involved on this site generally.
And I kind of agree with you. It's not like we're washing our hands of it. I mean, we only have one salesperson. She has, you know, emails and relationship. I mean, very few people develop, so these builders kind of come back to us all the time. So there is that communication level there. And trust me, work hours and trash both have been communicated. I know from Brian, from our office also, a number of times to the builders.
And the problem is you can't zero in on whose garbage it is. You know, because everybody's using the same siding, everybody's using the same lumber, everybody's using, so.
How many homes we have being constructed there right now?
My guess is probably 15. You say that's pretty accurate?
And they're all there pretty much, everybody's working there pretty much every day?
Yeah, you know, especially the parade houses, those houses got started later than they wanted to and have to be done by August. So, you know, there's a lot of exterior finishes and things like that going on. So between now, I get the next 60 days, I'm sure will be very, very hectic out there. Actually, every single lot in phase one, I believe, has been sold. So the basements and the houses are just going to keep rolling out there. The good news is that the quicker you start them, the quicker they're done and everybody leaves and it's over with. Better than stretching over 3 or 4 years. So it's going to be a very, very busy summer out there.
When you have the parade, typically, you know, the builders are pushing their guys constantly, but they are fully aware that they're not supposed to be working past 6 o'clock. So I guess.
We made it very clear, actually, because we had a discussion, Cindy Wagner, who's our salesperson, and I had a discussion with a member of the MBA, you know, because he kind of felt put out that they're used to the 7 to 7, and we're like, you know what? Tough luck. It is what it is. We actually sent them a copy of the developer's agreement. We told them that, although, again, I'm kind of saying it's construction-wise, said this is what we're bound to, this is what you expect you're bound to.
Can we, and I hope Newman could assist in this, put together a one-sheet flyer that we could, maybe somebody in your office could drop off to these people explaining the fines for going down Howard Lane, the restrictions they have, and the donation they'll be making to our road funds if they decide to go over the posted limits, which are extensive. Maybe we could even have our sheriff stop by and say hi to a few people just to.
We absolutely can help out with that. I think we can touch base with Brian and make sure we get language in there that's good with both of us. And I know again, it's real good with making PDFs and things. So.
Okay, maybe that will help deter some of this.
It probably wouldn't hurt too to just do periodic site visits Brian? just to
I'm out
see
there
it?
pretty much every
You-
day.
You are? All right, well then never mind. Okay, I didn't know how often you were. Okay.
And I don't really notice a lot of garbage out there, but then again, maybe I'm not looking close enough, so I'm not saying that there isn't any. But if I see something behind somebody, I mean, I'll stop and say something. I'll be more aware of the garbage, but the noise, I'm not in there at 6 o'clock. But I guess I equate it to, if you have a dog barking at 2 o'clock in the morning, you call the sheriff, or 10 o'clock at night, it's a noise issue. And if we could maybe, I don't know how Joe feels, get a squad car through there at, 6:30 at night. I don't know about the garbage. I gotta think of that one though.
I actually did request, when the road postings went on, I did request from the sheriff that we had a patrol run through there. We had a lot of very expensive lumber and things that were delivered sitting there. It kind of looked like an unlocked Menards, honestly, so. I had requested-
Yeah, at the price of lumber, look out.
We're gonna be out there, obviously, with starting this phase two, I'll be there more, my assistant will be there more. I think the more we're on site, the easier it is to ride builders and be part of it. I don't mind, coming down on those guys. It's just, it's difficult when there's no relationship.
Sure. Okay. All right. Anything else from the commission?
We started clearing trees out there. We do have a pre-con set up for tomorrow. Letter credit was delivered. We do intend on starting out there probably in the next working days. Grading, starting for real.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. On the waiver of the cul-de-sac, is everyone in the planning commission understand and okay with this? So that'll have to be part of any motion that's made. All right. We've covered everything. That covered what I had in my notes from the citizens' comments earlier. Anything else from staff? Rachel, anything else? No?
Nope.
Is there a motion on the final plat approval
So move
with the waiver of the cul-de-sac?
with the
Bulb
waiver
side.
of the cul-de-sac that's
All right.
per mention.
I'll
Is it-
second.
All right. Motion by Ed Nelson, second by Joe. Eberly or Eberly?
It's Everly.
Eberly. All right. I have a friend that's spelled the exact same way and he says Eberly.
I know. He's probably better looking and a heck of a lot younger.
Wow, don't give him that credit.
Ooh.
All right. Any other discussion? All
No.
in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right, then we have the developers agreement approval.
Before we make a motion, the motion will include a condition to include the exhibits that are approved by the town. So just add that to your motion. Other than that, no other comments from me.
Okay. All right. Rachel?
All right. I guess, did you want me to say anything about the developer agreement?
Was there any questions from the planning commission on the developers agreement?
None.
Ed?
No.
Pretty much.
No.
I've been through
Cut
this
and
already
dry.
here.
Mhm.
Is there a motion on developers agreement?
I'll make a motion to approve the developers agreement, including the attachments referred to in such document.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Ed Nelson. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Item D, discussion necessary action on the request for a conditional use permit to allow major grading in the B2 zoning district by applicant Jeff Osgood, owner Quick Trip Inc. for the property located at North 67, West 27619 Silver Spring Drive, tax key LSPT 0219.994.008. All right, Rachel.
All right. I'm just throwing the site plan up on a slide here. This is a project that is coming back for something that I believe must have been missed. They had their approvals for the site plan on this site. Let me just recap here on Silver Spring Road and Moraine Drive. This was approved back in 2019, actually, in the fall of that year. So they had a site plan approved, a conditional use permit for the gas station and C-store or convenience store. And the actual construction of it has been delayed. They've done some driveway work, is my understanding, and within the road right of way, getting county approvals for that. Actual tear down and reconstruction of the store itself and the gas station has been postponed probably until after 2022 is my understanding, based on discussions with the applicants. I think COVID and other things, just as we've discussed in previous meetings, the timing of the construction was delayed, but in the course of buttoning things up, we wanted to, we've been helping them get their, final plans in order, address any conditions of approval that were issued in 2019. And just so the final plans are on file and they'll be ready to go when they are ready to build. One of those loose ends was a major grading permit associated with this project. So the plans are approved, but this is just because of the, a little over 6,000 square feet of earthwork. And there's other requirements in the zoning code as well, but this would trigger a major grading permit approval needed from the town. And so we put this on your agenda now just to get this buttoned up. And the staff memo outlines kind of the highlights of the project. We reviewed this against the conditional use permit standards in your zoning ordinance that is required for every major grading permit under your chapter 11 code. And so staff is recommending approval subject to the conditions listed in the staff memo. And that includes comments about DNR technical standards and cleaning up any dirt tracking and right of way. These are things that you typically see with grading permits and the conditions that get applied. I've just mentioned that for the benefit of new commissioners. And as with any conditional use, one of these conditions is that it would expire in a year if the approved use has not commenced. As you just recently had revisited their overall conditional use, you understand that their schedule has been extended, but the town could, ask them to come back after a year if, construction hasn't started and you wanted to check in with them. That's, something that is in your, ability to do in the coming year. I will leave it there. If you have any questions for me, I am available.
I have
I see someone has a hand raised.
Yeah, Joe Everly. I have two questions. Number one is, and I think you addressed it, but one of the conditions is that the CUP is going to expire within a year, which most likely means they're going to have to come back and ask for an extension of that if they haven't completed everything within a year, correct?
That's right. And I put that in. I think that's because that was in other similar, try to keep, consistent language between these types of permits, but that may or may not make sense to actually put as a condition. I don't know. That's up to you if you want to keep that.
And the other question has to do, looking at the grading plan on their sheet SP 2.0, I'm concerned about them grading in the area of the proposed septic field. Now, I realize the person that the designer of the grading plan didn't have the septic plans, system plans in there when they did that, but I'm very concerned about them grading in that area where the septic facilities are going to be without taking into account what the septic facilities are going to be. That could really screw up the whole septic system in the future.
I'm trying to remember. I actually wasn't here for this initial site plan review, but Mitch, do you recall, was that discussed at all as part of the plan review?
Are you sure the grading?
I'm trying to remember if that was.
The elevations are staying the same.
Can you repeat that question, Joe?
So Mitch was asking if you could just.
I'm
repeat the
sorry.
question.
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry, Mitch, what did you say?
Could you repeat that?
On their grading plan, they're drawing entitled site grading. If I'm reading this correctly, they are grading in the area of what they've got denoted as the future septic field designed by others. And they're changing the topography there, and I'm just concerned that somebody is taking into account what the new septic system is going to require in that area, that they don't go out there and screw up that site and then come back and say, well, we can't get a septic system there. We're going to have to go to holding tanks or something.
Sure. To be honest with you, I don't think we did talk about that. So it's definitely something we can talk with Jeff Oswald and see what his.
Yeah, I see two sets of contours there. That to me means that they're
right,
grading.
Right on the corners, it looks like, or actually they do a
Right.
little bit of grading through there. Yep.
Troy? There we go.
Can you hear me now? It's Troy with Quick Trip.
We gotcha.
Hi, Troy Mazza, Quick Trip Real Estate. Yeah, I guess we'd stipulate obviously that we'd have coordination between our grading plan with the new septic field. There's existing facilities out there now that obviously we're rebuilding and placing new. And I guess we'd be obviously coordinating that to stipulate that the grading plan and the septic plan coordinate and work together. So we're agreeable to that for sure.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure, I mean, it's in your best interest not to screw up that site.
No.
Correct. And I think our overall plan here is to have bigger and better and plan for the long haul in the future. So we definitely are on that page to make it
Oh my
match the facilities going forward.
Thank you.
Ed?
The proposed new store will be to the, I believe it's to the east of the current location. So the grading permit, the whole site slopes gradually to the west and to the northwest. And there's a retention pond in the northwest corner currently on the site. With the new site, obviously there will be more hard surface. And currently, a lot of water, and in the case of heavy rains, gets directed into the culvert and then goes underneath VV to the field that's north of the site. Just, I'm sure you're aware of that, Troy. So, is there any plan to increase the catch basin with the increase of hard surface that will be there at some point with the new location or the new store? Did I lose him?
This is Troy. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes. Did you-
Yeah. Our overall redevelopment plan here would include a stormwater plan that obviously the village and the county, excuse me, the township and the county would have final approval and blessings on. And I believe we are increasing the scope and scale of that facility to handle any new impervious surface created out there.
All right. Troy, I'm just out of curiosity, I am not looking at a map at the moment. Is the current, because obviously this was an old PDQ site, is the current septic field west of your current location or south of the current store?
Off the top of my head, without pulling up the plan, I believe it's south of the store. Currently.
Okay. Yes, probably towards Merton Auto Body or in there. Yeah, because it is a unique and in the way that from the south, the driveway comes in, it's quite lengthy for a gas station operation. But anyway. Yeah, just be aware because the other question is, there is a storage facility to the south, takes up quite a bit of that whole triangle or parcel. For your major grading permit, again, the hill slopes slightly to, or gently, I will say, to the east and to the north. Are you going to by any chance are you considering putting in some type of a retaining wall to the south of where the new property will be, the new station will be? Between your concern and the storage facility?
Yeah, there will be some retaining wall. It won't be right close to the property line. On the new plan for the new store, you'll see there is some grading, particularly in the south, I get my bearings, southeast corner of the new facility where the grades climb up, if you will.
I
So
to get deeper.
yeah,
Okay.
there will be some. It won't be a Berlin wall, so to speak, in there. It'll be sections, but there will be areas where the grading does necessitate some type of retaining wall in that area.
All right. Okay, thank you.
All right, Brian? All right, anything else from staff?
Not me, but we also have a public comment, a person with their hand raised. Can I unmute them?
Well, we're past public comment portion.
Oh, okay.
Is there a motion on this item?
I'll move, Mr. Chairman, that I would move that the action on the request for a conditional, for a CUP to allow major grading in the B2 zoning district by applicant Jeff Osgood / owner Quick Trip Inc. for the property located at North 67 West 27619 Silver Spring Drive, tax key of 0219.994.008 be approved per also planning commission and planner's recommendations.
Do you want to add something about the grading plans and septic plan being consistent, or the grading not disrupting the existing septic field, or
To
Yes,
Joe's
Jack.
comment.
Joe's comments? Yeah.
That also the grading plan and the septic field location and any impact on present or future septic field be taken into account.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Joe.
Dan, is that adequate?
Mike?
Mike, sorry.
That'll work.
Why did I say Dan? I'm sorry.
Okay. Any discussion or final discussion?
No.
All right, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right, item E, discussion necessary action regarding proposed ordinance 2021-12 related to repealing and recreating chapter 12 of the Town of Lisbon zoning, of the Town of Lisbon Code of Ordinance regarding subdivisions. All right,
All
Rachel?
right. Yes, and what I'd like to do is, I'm just going to share screen for anybody who wants to see that. I'll just pull up the materials from the packet. I think that will be easier. So included in your packets, this was sent out just, I believe, yesterday. There was a staff memo that went to both the commission and town board. This is just an update of the memo that you would have seen last month when we discussed the ordinance updates. The intent of all this was really prompted by the town updating your impact fees for new building permits to, help raise funds for future town facilities with new development. So we took some outdated language out of your chapter 12 subdivision ordinance and put that into a different chapter 13, which will be your new impact fee ordinance. And that just went to town board on Monday night regarding the impact fees piece of it. But what's before you tonight is just the chapter 12 subdivision code piece of it. Of course, you had the public hearing earlier. And what the commission is being asked to do tonight is review the changes recommended by staff. I have worked on this as well as the town engineer and the town attorney. So we have all looked at this. The staff memo that you received, and I'd be happy to kind of go through this just a little bit. If you have questions on specific pieces that have changed, I know that the red line version of the ordinance is available on the town's website. And so that shows the specific changes made. The memo that's in your packets is the clean version, so ready for adoption. But I can go through and I could do this fairly quickly and then just see if you have questions. That's my goal. I don't want to take us too long. I know these things can be a little getting in the weeds, but just to kind of recap. So a couple different efforts here. Some of these sections you'll see changes were related to the impact fees. Now that's just more brief and general, and it directs people to chapter 13 to get the specifics on that. In addition, the town engineer has been updating the chapter 3 streets and highways ordinance. That includes things like street cross sections, trail cross sections. I believe, well, no, trails are separate. Excuse me. Street cross sections, so the public infrastructure, all of that is being updated in chapter 3, but Lisbon also had some of those street cross sections within your chapter 12 ordinance. So we just took the opportunity to see what was repeated or duplicated in those two chapters. We've removed the street cross sections from chapter 12 so that they can just be placed in chapter 3. That's something you can modify as needed over the years, when you need to update that. The chapter 12 amendment process is a little more involved. So our thinking was just have it in one chapter, not both. It's a little cleaner that way. Chapter 12 does refer to chapter 3, so they're they're connected, they're consistent. We think this is a step in a good direction to clean up the code a little bit. So that covers that piece of it. Specific sections that were modified, section 2.02 regarding compliance. There had been reference to a condominium plat checklist. I have actually never seen one of these, and so I'm not sure if one is available or when it would have been adopted. But I thought this was a chance to update that because that is a, you know, if I don't have the checklist to use, it's not clear how to administer that. But also as relates to impact fees, we took the chance to update some language there based on other codes I'm familiar with. And, you know, as far as how the subdivision code would apply to condo plats. So hoping to just clarify that, make it easier to administer for current and future town staff. Another change was section 4.02 on plat data required. Of just updating reference to the datum that surveyors would use to prepare plats and engineers. Just technical updates there to, you know, reference to the Natural Resource Conservation Service, for example, and what data is needed on a plat. Instead of building lines, using the phrase building setback lines per town of Lisbon. So just clarifying so that staff knows what to look for on these plats and what to ask of developers. Section 5.09 and 6.06 that relating to duplicate plats to be filed copies, you know, once the project is platted and done. Just kind of getting more updated language on that versus muslin backed copies, you know, things of that nature that we know aren't current practice. Section 7.03, that's streets and pedestrian way design standards. That again was chapter 3. It used to be that chapter 3 was kind of attached to the chapter 12 ordinance. That just seemed a little bit clunky. So here we just try to incorporate it by reference, not actually try to list chapter 3 as an attachment to chapter 12. I think that hopefully makes sense to everybody. On that note, I do have, there are a couple sections in the code that I noticed before this meeting that still reference attachment 1, which was chapter 3. There's just a couple spots in the code that I think we can clean up before town board approval. So I would recommend that if you make a motion on this tonight to recommend approval, that just include that to allow staff to just clean up those couple references to attachment 1. We can come back to that after. Other changes, section 7.09, public site and open spaces. This was updated in relation to the impact fees and updates that were done as part of chapter 13. That just makes it more general about dedication and reservation of lands. So we can look at that. If you have questions on the specifics, we can always look at the text. Section 8.14 trails. We just move that to a different section, 7.09. That seemed more logical as a place where it clarifies what the expectations are for new subdivisions. But that language was not changed, it was just relocated. Section 9.03 regarding construction plans, wanted to specify that be prepared by a professional engineer registered in Wisconsin. And some other language there, just clarifying the expectations for that. Section 9.04 erosion control, updating a reference to DNR technical standards. Section 10.04 impact fees, again, updating language to refer to chapter 13 and removal of one sentence that was not deemed to be necessary. Now, addenda that were attached to chapter 12, or that are rather, multi-use trail standards, addendum B, that is still there, but we've updated the cross section that the town engineer has at Kunkel. So that is, you'll see that in the new ordinance. Addendum C, which was used to be the public facilities needs assessment. Since a new needs assessment was just done to establish your updated impact fees, this old one is just removed from the ordinance. And the new needs assessment was just approved by the town board on Monday. And that is not actually included in an ordinance. It's just something that kind of is standalone, and the town could update the needs assessment at any time with a fairly, not minimal process, but not quite as much process needed. So it's a little more nimble as your needs change over the years. You can do that. Chapter 12 also had figures, 3 figures at the end. Those are the street cross sections. Those have been removed. To be clear, I know in the red line version, some might have had questions about this. It's not clear that those images were removed, but they actually are. It just doesn't look obvious when you see the red line copy. So those should not be in chapter 12 though, and they are not in the clean version, I don't believe. Yeah, double check that one. And then table of contents, we just updated that to make sure it reflects all of these, any section numbering, other changes made, and think that, fix a typo or two in there. And if you have questions or would like to look at any specific sections, I'd be happy to do that.
Questions from the board, anyone? Ed?
I'd love to ask a ton of, there is so much work and so much time that went into this. I'm just thinking of the track we're on right now, Rachel and Turnup, building within our community, the number of subdivisions that are being platted out, and the whole future of the town as we move towards possible incorporation, et cetera. Does this offer us a better path to preserve some, in quotes, rural atmosphere for our community? Or is this more, are we tidying up and bringing our codes into the 21st century, so to speak? I have not, in all honesty, read the whole document.
I would say it's more the latter, Ed, that at least as I see it, it's more just making sure your codes reflect current day practices, state laws. Also just helping Lisbon be a little more nimble where we can, right? I mean, we're not at a point where you're not trying to overhaul your ordinances, but if we can go in there, make some changes that will just help ease how people can administer these codes, hopefully they make a little more sense by fixing some of the details. I think that can only help you, and certainly moving some things from chapter 12, if they don't need to be in your subdivision code, then you don't have, like, for example, your chapter 3, I don't know that there's a public hearing needed to modify that chapter. So if you want to change your local road, specifications, you can do that without going through public hearing and having to wait quite as long. It can just help Lisbon, do those things. In your needs assessment and impact fees, there is a process needed for that, but it doesn't need to be in chapter 12. So if you decide you want to, you're planning for sewer and water as the community grows in select areas, for example, well, you could, roll that into your needs assessment for public facilities. You could charge impact fees for that in the future. We just want to set up your code so that gives you a good foundation, to have it adapt with you as you grow, and whether that's incorporation, or in other ways, you want your ordinances to work for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I thank you. I certainly understand that obviously as we are growing at the rate we're growing right now, things are going to become a lot more complicated for us than they were 20 years ago or 10 years ago. So if this documentation or these documents help streamline and make it easier for our, obviously our administration, our administrators, good. So thank you.
You bet.
Joe?
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed the document, and with the administrator's permission, I had a quite involved discussion with the town engineer about some of my concerns I had, and he relayed, he and I had talked, and I am very satisfied with what the final document is. I wasn't aware of some things that are going on right now, and he, like I said, he and I talked quite a bit yesterday, and I think the document is a vast improvement over what it was before, and I look forward to seeing the revised Chapter 3 document, which needs to be done, obviously, because they fit hand in hand together. But this is, the majority of this is cleanup, because it was a mess before, and it's really good. I think the people and the staff that have worked on this have done a really good job.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for your time on that also.
No problem.
Brian? No questions. All right, neither do I. All right, anything else from staff or? No?
No.
Is there a motion on ordinance 2021-12?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval to the town board as presented,
With the edits noted by staff.
with the edits noted by staff.
Thank you.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nelson. Any final discussion? All in favor, say aye. Say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Item F is discussion, necessary action regarding review of annual quarry inspection reports. We are functioning on a skeleton crew here tonight.
We are. I do have an email in to request the reports from those who were unable to make the meeting but did not hear back before we left town hall.
Does anyone have any reports for this meeting? Brian?
I brought mine in.
All right.
Brian, good.
I'll make it quick. So on April 19th, I went to asphalt batch plant on Lisbon Road. I thought it was very well kept. They said that they're providing many upgrades to quiet operations. They're building a berm to direct sound away from the neighbors. And they're trying to create better paths/roads in between the asphalt plant and the gravel plant so that they don't have to use the roads and dirty those up. I gave them an excellent. April 14th, I went to the county cave plant and they have dust control measures they're going through, just trying to improve all that. Their backup alarms are changed to white noise. They've changed their hours of riprap crushing to start at 9 a.m. instead of starting at 7 a.m. That they did on their own. That's what he said. And no Saturdays. They also changed the backup alarms to white noise and directed riprap crushing away from the neighbors because they met with the neighbors and asked them how they could improve on their plant, and that's what they came back with. So I gave them an excellent 2, very well kept. The main quarry, same thing, dust enclosure, plant-wide watering systems. They're also adding a wheel wash and additional dust prevention. I gave them a very good score too. Let's see, in the Lisbon Quarry on Town Line Road, they have a new water truck that keeps dust down for the mobile home park. The water use and using thickeners to keep the dust down. Most of them were all about dust control. They're looking also to add a wheel wash, the same one they have at their other plant. So that's the short version, and I gave them all very good scores, and they did a nice job, I thought.
All right.
That was
Thank you,
it.
Brian. I don't remember who was the rest of them.
I think Brian should be nominated to do all the site inspections. That was extremely impressive.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Joe is sneaking up on my making resolutions, so we're gonna have to arm wrestle here. I did 2 site inspections, Mr. Chairman.
Mhm.
The first one was done on the 12th, 4/12, and that was, excuse me, Payne and Dolan. Due to COVID restrictions from Payne and Dolan, I was only able to walk the site, which obviously, since it's hundreds of acres, guess what? We didn't cover a lot of ground. Realistically, there no major, I would say, having looked at that operation some 4 or 5 years ago, there were no major changes. It is a site that they use for asphalt restoration, also the storage of various materials that come off the site or are stored at the site. Water, retention ponds, etc., had not changed. And this site, by the way, is near our compost site and just north of Plainview, for those of you that may not be familiar with it. Overall, excellent. The second inspection I did was on 421. That was Genesee Aggregate. And I gave them an excellent rating. And quite frankly, what the area that's south of Plainview has not been active for decades. The area that's north of Plainview right now is also not active. They are mainly just storing material in there. And I was impressed that Highway Department and our Parks Department have worked with Genesee, and they were basically taking some wood chips in there for further future restoration down the road of the site. They're in the southeast, extreme southeast corner of the active site. They have finished doing fill, crushed stone, some dirt to reclimate the, the site. But honestly, I did get a tour of that one from Heidi. What is Heidi's last name? Johnson, I'm sorry. And again, it is mainly being used by Genesee Aggregate to store material. I tell you, from the standpoint of a wildlife preserve, it's 100%. So anyway, they got an excellent rating for both sites. End of report.
So still awaiting receipt of those.
Okay, thank you. Item 6, planner report.
Excuse me, I had to unmute there for a moment. It's been a little bit quiet the last couple of months. We had no planner appointments. We did just have 2 today that I didn't add to this slide here, but what we're expecting for next month, we're anticipating submittal, if it hasn't come in already, of Twin Pine Farms 3 final plat and developer agreement. That you saw the preliminary just recently, developer Joe Bukovic. So he's planning to come back for next month with that plat. The Quarry Corners truck wash, that would be a conditional use and site plan. I believe they are submitting this week as well, or next week for the June meeting. Staff has been working with them to help them get their plans in order. That's been in the works for quite some time, kind of backburnered, but you'll be seeing it soon, I believe. A Waukesha County Public Works site on Lisbon Road, that is heading to Board of Appeals this month, next week, if I have the date correct. And so you might see that in the near future, depending on the outcome of Board of Appeals in some form or another. I imagine that'll coming possibly next month. And Sunvest Solar, I had that on here anticipating that it would be tabled tonight due to quorum, so should have that on the next month's agenda. And the 2 meetings we had today, one was relating to a residential split, potential residential split to create 1 new lot off of, is it Woodland Drive, just south of Community Park. I might have the street wrong, I'm sorry. The other one was relating to the Condon property over on Mary Hill Road. And that would be about 60 acres, exploring potential for that property. And those are the only items that I'm aware of that would be likely on the next agenda, unless Elisa or Kathy have anything to add.
Nothing here. Nothing here with the exception of a possible sign permit for Richmond School.
That's all right, good to dad.
Okay.
And no ordinance updates next month.
All right. Thank you, Rachel.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I don't know if this is right. We're getting out of here before 10 o'clock.
I know. I feel
happened?
guilty.
Who would like to make the motion to adjourn?
So move.
Is there a second? So seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're out at 8:07. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, thanks everybody.